Welcome to FFT Primetime, your Week 13 report. We have reached December. We have reached the playoffs. That's right. If you remember, this epic run is still one of my favorites ever. Let's talk playoffs in the FFT Championship this year. In previous years, I had run both divisional playoffs and a concurrently running broader playoff. We're not doing that this year. I got a little feedback. It was a lot. I've got less time this year, and it's a lot of work. We're going to just do playoff in the divisions first, then we'll decide an overall winner at the end. So right now, this week, week 14, we're having a wild card round. 6 teams in your division have made the playoffs. Point scored is the tiebreaker there. So in week 14, we're going to have number 3 versus number 6, number 4 versus number 5. We're giving the top 2 teams bye weeks. Then we'll have a semifinal matchup where the 2 winners from week 14 take the 2 bye week teams on. And we, of course, will have a division Super Bowl in week 16. And then week 17, we'll have a free-for-all, a Royal Rumble, whatever you want to call it. We can get your 22 divisional winners together. High score takes the day, wins the overall championship for the year. Playoffs on CBS can be actually kind of hard to find where the bracket actually is. If you go to the scoreboard where the live scoring is, you'll either have a matchup or you'll be on bye, and then you'll generally know where you are. If you go to standings and drop down the menu to playoff race, you'll actually find the bracket there. It looks like this. It's not the greatest bracket I've ever seen in my life, but it is a bracket you can see. I'm highlighted. I've snuck in as the number 5 seed in the Merino division, my beloved Merino division. I made a run to the championship last year. Hopefully I can do some more upsetting this year as I did last year. All right, top 5 scores for the week. Alan Peterson, 10-3. The Smith division, a 187.86 score, led by a San Francisco connection of Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey. Your number 4 scoring team was Jennifer out of the Peyton division. She also moves to 10-3 with the win this week, a 190.76 score. Look at these receivers. Whew, this team looks like a problem over there in the Peyton division. CeeDee Lamb, 32. Nico Collins, 34. Deebo Samuel, 35. That's a lot of points right there. That's a lot of points. Number 3, Kyle moves to 9-4 of the lot division, led also by Brock Purdy on this team with a 198.26 score. Your number 2 high scoring team. I am so sorry, Jeremy. I forgot to put your record in there. Jeremy actually moved into bye week position with this monster 199.14 score, was sitting outside of the bye week position, jumped all the way up to 2 seed with this score out of the Moss division. He led DK Metcalf, gave him that big total early and never looked back on this one. And then finally, your number 1 team, Brad. The only team, high-scoring team, who does not actually make the playoffs is Brad. He moves to 6-7, comes just short in his division. I believe he's number 7 overall in that division, the United division, but goes out on a high note, a 201.52 score, gets a massive game from Jamar Chase on Monday Night Football to push him over 200 points, the only 200-point score of the week. Looking at the thrill of victory, we have, instead of doing the closest game of the week, we have some really cool stories from around the league about these kind of tighter back and forth games. This is why we play fantasy football right here. Brian and Lance Smith, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, were the 6th seed coming into the week. The 7th place team had already won, so they then had to go about their business and win the game. They were trailing by just under 4 points going to Monday Night Football. They had T. Higgins and Brandon McManus against Christian Kirk and the Jags D. Of course, the way all these websites work, you get the defensive points up front, and then a lot of times we'll knock them down from there. So they get the Jags D to start, and their deficit gets bigger. However, Christian Kirk gets that 1 catch, 28 yards, and gets knocked out of the game. The Bengals defense keeps the Bengals offense keeps chipping away with that backup quarterback. So they get within 1.5 points late. Brandon McManus attempts a field goal to take the lead, but he misses it. And missed field goals are minus a point. So now they're down 2.5 points. However, ultimately, he makes that 40-yard kick with 150 left. That actually puts the Smiths ahead by 0.24 points. The crazy part about this, if he only makes from 39 yards, they're still trailing, right? Really cool stuff out of the Smiths over there. Really cool stuff. The thrill of victory. That's why we play the game, right? Is that kind of stuff. We had the following managers play their way into the playoffs. There is nothing sweeter than being on the outside of the playoffs, looking out, looking in, and then bam, jumping people and getting in. Congratulations to these teams. Brad in the Lot division, Andy in the Merino division, Caitlin and Justin, both from the Montana division. 2 different teams played their way in. Jamie in the Munoz division, Matthew in the Peyton division, Dominic in the Rice division, Patrick in the Sayers division, Adam, a longtime very successful manager. Adam was actually a top 20 team, I believe, each of the last 2 years in the overall standings. Had to get a win in week 13 to get in the Smith division. Well done, Adam. Mike in the Unitas division, and Dewey, a member, an original staple member of this league, Unitas division, plays his way in week 17. Few fun facts for you about this season. In the final week, we had almost as many teams move into bye week positions, playoff position. I was stunned. In 22 divisions, we only had 11 playoff spots change in that last week. We had 10 bye weeks change in that last week. Only 44 total spots bye weeks available. 10 of them changed hands in week 13. 13 of our 22 divisions saw no change in the 6 teams that were in the playoffs. 13 and 20 divisions stayed the same after week 13. 8 and 5 is good enough to make the playoffs for all but one team. Kevin Bainbridge in the Sanders division. I am so sorry to tell you, only 8 and 5 team that didn't make it this year. 7 and 6 was generally the number. From 7 and 6, about 50% of the 7 and 6 teams made it. About 50% were out. 8 and 5, everyone made it but Kevin. Got good news for Kevin. Come up in just a minute, though. Possible repeat champion. Last year, your overall champion, Matt Corrado, he sits 11th overall rate now heading into the playoffs. Will we have a repeat? Interesting. Generally speaking, our previous champions haven't done so hot. As a matter of fact, we've had 3 overall champions so far. 2 of them missed the playoffs. Benji, our 2021 champion, missed the playoffs by a game. And our 2020 champion, David, we're not going to talk about his season. It wasn't so good. All right, your top teams overall this season. We start with Lino in the Marino division, John in the Peyton division. These were 2 of the best teams all year long. No surprise to see them 1 and 2. Nick from the Dickerson division, John from the Favre division, George, another team who's been a top team in previous season, George from the Sayers division, Tim from the House division, Carlos from the Montana division, Sam from the White division, a second team from the Peyton division and Jennifer Myers, and then finally Kenny in the Smith division round up the top 10. I also wanted to highlight the top scoring teams in the league because 2 of these 3 teams are not in the top 10 teams. Jeff from the Favre division wins the title for the top overall scoring team this year at 1,931 point total in just 13 games. Very impressive. Claire, playing out of the Rice division, racks up over 1,900 points as well. The only 2 teams that do that. And finally, in the House division, we have Tim, and you can see Tim is 6th overall in the standings. Tim, a strong team going into the playoffs this year. A 9-game winning streak coming in hot. Best ball update. I told you we got some good news for Kevin. Wasn't Kevin's greatest week, only scored 101 and allowed Tyler to jump up on him, but he's only down 12 points. Kevin very much in the mix for the best ball title. Josh was one of our top teams last year, still in the mix in the bronze medal position right now, but only 34 points out of league. Very impressive. Quick shout out to Iron Front out of Division 4, your top scoring team of the week, along with Mike in Division 16, both tallied 188 points this week. So that's all I got for this week. I hope you have a great playoffs. I hope if you made it, you're successful. For those who didn't make the playoffs, hey, better luck next season. There'll be a league next year, right? And we can do the same thing and have some fun. Thank you all for playing along if you missed the playoffs. But if you made the playoffs, let's keep going. Let's keep fighting. My team's in. Let's keep playing and see if we can get this thing done. Good luck to all your teams this week, whether they're in the FFT Championship or not. And I will talk to you next week with an update